The Holy Gospel according to St. Matthew, the 2nd chapter.
Glory to you, Lord.
In the time of King Herod, after Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea, wise men from the east came to Jerusalem asking, "Where is the child who has been born King of the Jews? For we observed his star at its rising and have come to pay him homage." When King Herod heard this, he was frightened, and all of Jerusalem with him. And calling together all the chief priests and scribes of the people, he inquired of them where the Messiah was to be born. They told him, "In Bethlehem of Judea, for so it has been written by the prophet, and you, Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, are by no means least among the rulers of Judah. For from you shall come a ruler who is to shepherd my people Israel." Then Herod secretly called for the wise men and learned from them the exact time when the star had appeared. Then he sent them to Bethlehem, saying, "Go and search diligently for the child, and when you have found him, bring me word so that I may also go and pay him homage." When they heard the king, they set out. And there ahead of them went the star that they had seen at its rising until it stopped over the place where the child was. When they saw that the star had stopped, they were overwhelmed with joy. And on entering the house, they saw the child with Mary, his mother. And they knelt down and paid him homage. Then, opening their treasure chests, they offered him gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And having been warned in a dream not to return to Herod, they left for their own country by another road. The Gospel of the Lord. When they had heard the king, they set out, and there ahead of them went the star, that they had seen at its rising until it stopped over the place where the child was. They set out. That's what captured me this epiphany. They just started walking, and walking, and walking. Which reminds me of this famous little quip, and maybe some of you have seen this movie clip before. I'm going to have Gordon play it for us this morning. So it reminds me of this moment. At the beginning, there is no sound, so there should be sound as we get into it.
That day, for no particular reason, I decided to go for a little run. So I ran to the end of the road, and when I got there, I thought maybe I'd run to the end of town. And when I got there, I thought maybe I'd just run across Greenbow County. And I figured since I run this far, maybe I'd just run across the great state of Alabama. And that's what I did. I ran clear across Alabama. No particular reason, I just kept on going. I ran clear of the ocean. And when I got there, I figured since I'd gone this far, might as well turn around, just keep on going. When I got to another ocean, I figured since I'd gone this far, might as well just turn back, keep right on going. When I got tired, I slept. When I got hungry, I ate. When I had to go, I went.
And so, you just ran.
Yeah.
So really the only difference between the Magi and Forrest Gump is why they started. Forrest says that there was no particular reason for running. Although if you know the movie well and delve into Gump's psyche, we could say that the reason he was running was because he was conquering his limitations and because his heart was breaking. And maybe he was running towards something he had yet to figure out. Regardless, Forrest ran for a long, long time, across America in fact. And the Magi, they walked for a long, long time. Across the Persian Empire, in fact. Truthfully, we don't know exactly where the Magi came from. It could have been somewhere on the Arabian Peninsula, maybe the kingdom of Sheba, or somewhere in the Persian Empire. Some even say China. We don't really know. But what we do know is they walked a long way, probably between 500 and 1,000 miles, to see Jesus. Well, to see someone, they didn't really know who. When they started, they expected to see greatness. They expected to see a king. They expected to see a new day dawning. When they started out, they were probably stoked, excited, and curious, and hopeful. But after weeks and weeks of walking, I'm sure they began seesawing between fatigue and hallucinations as they scoured the terrain for caves in which to hide and rest as they ventured through enemy territory. They hoped for more than just miles and miles of sand and rugged rock. So by the time they actually get to Jerusalem and meet with King Herod, they've already walked across the whole nation. We forget this, or we don't even realize it. Our presentation of the Christmas story often mirrors the Hallmark Channel, which, by the way, if you didn't know, they have this whole lineup during the months of December of romanticized Christmas movies to add to the sugary sweetness that we all love. And I'm not really knocking that. We can all use a little bit more sweetness, but it has obscured our vision of Christmas. Jesus was probably close to 2 by the time the Magi showed up. But we get a little bit ahead of ourselves, back to the walking and the walking and the walking. I wonder what they talked about. I feel like if I was the 4th Magi in this merry little troop, what's for dinner would be my first question. McDonald's, Wendy's, Taco Bell. I mean, all right, it's sort of an impractical question given the fact that indoor plumbing isn't quite a thing, but it's not an unrealistic vein. I mean, the Magi talked about what was for dinner, when they take a break, where they would sleep, how much longer they thought it would be. Pretty commonplace things. And they also talked about who they dreamed of meeting at the close of it all. So much distance crossed in miles, in conversation, in silence, and in prayer by these people. There really is no magic in this story. It's just a lot of walking, and a lot of persistence, and a lot of trust. And at the very end, a fair amount of rebelliousness. But I'm struck this year that Epiphany is something we practice. It's not something that happens to us, not a flash in the pan, not a sunburst of revelation, not filled with angels proclaiming on high, and hardly even about a star. Epiphany is the revelation of Christ to all nations. And it is also the uncovering and discovering of the journey which leads us to Christ. For the Magi, I venture to guess that much of the revealing occurred as they walked through darkness, not as they knelt before the baby Jesus. Getting to Jesus certainly was the point of the journey, but the realization of how desperately they needed Jesus happened while walking. Now, not every journey toward Jesus is like the Magi's, uphill and through darkness, but many, if not most, are. And I guess the reason I hold fast to the unremarkableness of the Magi story is because it means that at any empty hour, I might set out. Set out with unsure feet, maybe for no particular reason, pressing on with just a glimmer of hope that there might be more. I have this remarkable gift of over-explaining things. I always want to make sure that you catch what I'm trying to say, and there's a certain amount of poetry and depth to it. But mostly, I'm just trying to say keep walking, or running for that matter, even if the star fades. Keep walking, for your journey is not in vain. That's the promise.